I'm here with Steve Watkins, who's a Republican candidate for the 2nd District Congress, and let's get right to it, Steve. I wanted to ask you this question because I know you've spent time in Afghanistan in various roles, but Donald Trump has put tariffs on Canada, and he's using a section called Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, which had previously only been used for Libya and Iran. And the reason I ask this is that right after 9/11, Canada sent military forces to Afghanistan. Canada was in Afghanistan for 12 years, lost 157 men. And I was struck by this, and so was the Prime Minister of Afghanistan. Is this the appropriate way to deal with Canada, even if it is trade, to make them feel like they're essentially an enemy of the United States?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, Dr. Beatty. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. Now, first thing I'd like to say is Canada is a wonderful trading partner with the United States. I believe the second or third. But this is nestled into a couple of larger issues. One is trade policy. Now, I'm a free market guy. I don't believe in tariffs. I've done a lot of work overseas, both as an Army Ranger and also as a businessman, and it's tough. And I believe in the free flow of products and services globally. Now, as for our relationship with Canada, that's a wonderful relationship, and it will remain so before, now, and in the future.
I've been asking all the candidates this. The 2nd District has a lot of farmers. Soybeans is a big product. What do you say to farmers who may be saying, well, we're nervous about possibly a trade war that could affect us here in the 2nd District?
I work with farmers a lot. I walk the fields. I've met with Kansas Farm Bureau. I've met with Soybeans Association, Livestock Association. I have great working relationships with farmers and ag professionals all throughout the district. And they talk to me. They are concerned about trade relations. The role of the government is not to regulate, but to get out of the way and marry our product up with consumers overseas. That's the role of the government, and that's what I'd advocate strongly for.
Would you be willing to oppose a president from your own party if this, trade in the 2nd District was at stake?
Absolutely. Listen, I call balls and strikes on Donald Trump. I like the things that he's ran on. I like the patriotism. I like Justice Gorsuch. I like, generally speaking, low regulations. I like low taxes. But there are things I don't like. I don't like this talk of tariffs. We'd have to take a close look at that. And I also, I don't like the tweeting at 2:30 in the morning. But as a guy with a lot of experience overseas, I believe in peace through military strength, through tough language. Now, as a war fighter and as a paramilitary operator working in conflict environments, I've given a lot of thought to North Korea, and thanks to Donald Trump and of course our Kansan Mike Pompeo, who I love because we're both West Pointers, we're both graduates at Harvard. I'm a huge fan of progress we've made in North Korea. So I call balls and strikes on Donald Trump. I like some of the things I've seen, but not everything. Certainly not some of this trade policy.
We have an interesting situation in the 2nd District where your father started a PAC and ran roughly $100,000 in TV ads. What do you say to critics who say, oh, his dad's buying him the election?
Sure. And thank you for bringing that up. You see, my father, first let me say that he really grew up with nothing. He grew up in Holton, Kansas, in this district, and he farmed at the age of 12. He didn't have running water in his house. Now, he's made something of himself. He's became a physician, went to K-State, and then med school supported by ROTC. I was born on an Air Force base in Texas. He worked for everything that he had. Now, we've seen what some people do with their money, but what he's choosing to do with some of his is invest it into an ideology that I know a lot of Kansans agree on. This is constitutional conservatism. This is Christian republicanism. These are values that we share. That's what he's choosing to do with his money, and I think that's noble. Now, I didn't know he was investing into this PAC. I found out when everyone else did. It certainly wasn't contingent upon anything. He and I have talked about politics since we were since I was a young boy. We talked about, and I get my values through my parents. parents and through some of the wholesome agrarian roots that he has. And so we talk about low government, and we talk, or minimal government, peace through military strength, the gift of life, Second Amendment. So that's where I get my values from. And so he's trying to buy the election. That you're hearing that from the critics and a lot of people who are opposing me. You're hearing it from the liberals because they know I have the best chance of beating Paul Davis in the general. And you're hearing it from some of the Republicans who realize that I'm going to be tough to beat in the primary.
I brought along some mailers from Congresswoman Lynn Jenkins. They're from 2010, and they're talking about the debt. Now, that's 2010, 8 years ago. And now it's trillions of dollars more than when she sent out these mailers. And so I have a two-part question. Does the debt matter, given that it's gone up and up and up? And given the experience of the 2nd District voters with their representatives over the last 20 years under Republican and Democratic administrations, why should they believe a congressperson who says, oh, I'm going to get that debt down?
Out-of-control spending is a huge problem, and if we can't rely on Republicans to be fiscally conservative in Washington, then nobody will be. Now listen, America has a debt problem. It is a problem. America has a debt problem not because we don't have enough money, but we don't have fiscal discipline. We haven't been passing the conservative enough fiscal regulation, and that's a huge problem, and that's a concern of people's. And that, again, plays to the larger issue of voters needing fresh blood in Washington. Now, Doctor, we knock on 1,000 doors a day, not to persuade, but to listen. And what we hear is resounding and compelling. People want fresh blood on Capitol Hill. They want a change. They are tired of what you described. They're tired of out-of-control spending. Now, I was a small businessman. I have created more jobs and, to the best of my knowledge, all the other candidates combined. And so I know what it's like to try and build a company and have to follow you have to keep your balance your budget in your company, or otherwise you're not going to be a company. Now, why do we allow our government to get away with that? So people want to change, and if they want the status quo, they've got several career politicians to choose from. They've got several politicians who are simply looking for the next rung on their political career. But if they want something new, if they think that we can do better, if they believe, as we do, that we as a people must do better, then they got me as a political outsider, and I promise I will never let them down.
Now, a lot of candidates talk about cutting the budget, and when you look at the federal budget, 34% is discretionary spending. Of that 34%, 55% of that is defense. There's a lot of money there, but there's actually not a lot in there to cut. Is there anything specific you've already seen that you think could be cut?
You had better believe it. Now, in a previous life, I was in the Middle East, and instead of pursuing a lot of the more lucrative and sexy defense contracts, I intentionally went after the contracts dedicated to protecting the American taxpayer money, contracts that were to oversee and do quality assurance on construction projects. Now, my job and my company's job was to assure that the projects were being performed as per the codes and specifications and within that budget. So I've seen firsthand government overspending, and I've dedicated an enormous amount of my career finding it, seeing. I know the tricks of the trade of these defense contractors, right? So I've been in there, and I've, over the course of my career, probably read the entire federal acquisition regulation, because I know what their secrets are, and I know I can cut defense spending.
We have time for one more question. You know, the 2nd District is actually quite fascinating. Donald Trump, of course, won it in 2016, but in 2014, a Democrat, Paul Davis, defeated Sam Brownback, a Republican, by 6 points. It wasn't that close. So it's an interesting district. How do you see the district, and how do you fit in, given that, at least in the previous election, voters were willing to elect a Democrat and then later a Republican?
I'm the political outsider in this race. Again, if you're completely satisfied with the Kansas State Legislature, you're in luck. You have a lot to choose from. But if you think we can do better, if you believe that we must and will do better, then I'm the political outsider, and I know I can bring it to Paul Davis. Now, there is a reason why you're seeing some negative ads about me. Let me make something crystal clear. I am and have always been a Republican. I've never pursued or entertained the thought of running as a Democrat. Every time you hear that, I want you to be wise and realize that these are people who know I can win. These are people who are after me. And so trust that I am a strong and true constitutional conservative. I'm a Christian. I'm a family man. I'm a patriot. And I'd love to serve you, and I'd never let you down.
All right, that's all the time we have. A reminder to vote, everybody, on August 7th. And Steve, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Doctor.